Russia invade of Ukraine, the impact of the COVID-19 crisis. The world now is not at ease, other planet however start to freeze. Crisis. This is a wake-up call for every big boy, big man and girl. Crisis. In a crisis. Enormous stress we have. Natural disaster, disruption, and conflict, pandemic. We can't get away from it. Crisis. The world falling too long. The challenge out there too strong. We want an invitation. We want communication to conquer the crisis.
Become such a cruel place. Something is wrong with the human race. Preacher man say it's wonders and signs. We are living in the end of times. Where is the love we once used to know? Where is the kindness we used to show? The heart of man is so full of hate. Let's make a change before it's too late. Too much killing, too much blood spilling. Each and every morning, it's weeping and mourning. We've got to stop all the crimes, erase the violence, let our voice be heard. We can't sit in silence. The hope of tomorrow is in our use today. We've got to live in love. Crime and violence don't pay.
Good morning, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Welcome to Cop Chat for today, Thursday, the 20th day of July 2023. And of course, we bring to you every Thursday this program, Book It Sure. And we're joined by members of the Royal St. Vincent and the Grenadines Police Force from 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock. So we have just about an hour. Sometimes we might start a little late, like this morning. Sincerest apologies, but sometimes what can happen. All right, so this morning in studio with us, we've got two members of the RSVGPF, and they are Mr. Sebastian Francis, he's a sergeant of police, and Mr. Renato Hendrickson, corporal of police. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning. Thank you for having us.
All right, always a pleasure. Today we're going to be talking about policing the Southwestern Division, successes and challenges. Sounds like a huge area. What is the Southwestern Division, or where is it?
The Southwestern Division starts in Redland Hill and ends at Belial. Within that space, there are 3 stations: Vermont, Leyu, and Barley.
Okay, how many divisions are there in all? You can list them all and we'll count as we go.
We have Central Division, South Central Division, Eastern Division, North and Southwestern Divisions, and the Grenadines.
Okay.
6,
So that's 6. All right, lovely. So within the Southwestern Division, Are the challenges unique to the division, or are they challenges that you see? We'll get to the challenges and successes, but I just want to know, are they unique to the Southwestern Division, or is it the same across the board?
Well, if we have to give an accurate answer, you would have to, in my opinion, walk in all of the divisions.
Oh,
and
okay,
then
okay.
You would get an exposure to the different challenges and even successes that occurs. But from listening to other police in the other divisions, you realize that there are similarities in the divisions right across the board.
Okay, all right. So let's get to some of the, let's deal with the challenges first. What are some of the challenges that you face within this division?
Okay, so as was mentioned by Sergeant Francis before, that the division comprises of Barley, Vermont, and Liu police stations, and they are under the command of SP Niger Butcher, right? And one of the challenges that I face as a police officer in these divisions, because I've worked at all three stations throughout the division, and burglaries are one of the top issues that we are faced with as police officers. And we could isolate the burglary to areas where persons they would build their homes. They're not necessarily living in St. Vincent permanently, but they have their houses. They would come home occasionally for a vacation. They may not have someone looking over the house for them or the property for them. And you find that people tend to target these homes where persons are not frequented. And one of the advice that I would give to people, you can't tell people that they shouldn't build their homes and lock them up. But always be mindful that once we do that, it tends to create opportunities in these areas. We have areas where you have like plan areas. We tend to call them plan areas these days, and you find a lot of houses in these areas are like that. A lot of the owners, they are overseas, and people tend to prey on these areas.
In terms of the burglaries, is there like, are they concentrated around a particular time of the year, or is it, maybe we can zone in, is it a particular time of the day?
Well, they're not necessarily zoned into a particular time of the year, but most of the time you would find these incidents would happen when persons are either at work, because you may have neighbors still around the areas, and you'd find that once they are away, they go to work, for example, their homes also are empty. People seize these opportunities. At nights, people are asleep, neighbors are asleep, and they, seize these opportunities. So these are most of the times criminals will operate.
Let me just add, right? Some of these houses that Corporal Hendrickson referring to is that there would be a person who may go to this house once a week to just check on it, maybe a cleaner. So basically the house is left up to the mercies of whoever, because of the time span where that the cleaner or the caretaker go and check on it. They don't go every day, and that is an issue. So just advising people who have the properties and leave persons in charge of it, advise the person to go there every day or maybe twice per day, not at a regular time, but do random checks on the property.
Right.
Yeah.
So, in terms of apprehending and retrieving stolen items, how successful have you been? The division, that is, or is that also a challenge?
if we should, give our honest answers, even that poses a challenge, right? Because again, as Sergeant Francis said, when the persons who are caretakers of these homes visit these homes once a week, sometimes maybe at more extensive spans, then and there is when the police would find out that a burglary occurred,
Oh, okay,
and then
okay.
by then it is sometimes too late to even make a headway because these persons are a week or 2 weeks ahead of you, right? So, and in the police force, our philosophy is that you try to get as much work done within 24 hours when we really seeking breakthroughs. And if these persons have a week ahead of us, they would have broken a house a person do not know. They go back and check. Because a lot of times criminals, they are observing our routines. So they would realize, okay, this person is only visiting this house on Mondays. So after you would have left on Monday, they are there also. And then you going back the following Monday to visit this home again. And that is when you're realizing that.
Thanks. Do many of the homes have surveillance cameras? Or that's when people come to report, they also say that, okay, we have statistically, how is it looking?
Unfortunately, most of these houses do not have security systems. I know they have systems where people could monitor their property from overseas or when they're at work. Most of these houses, they don't have these things. And even sometimes the persons who take care of these houses don't even know what is inside the house. Because they just basically go to turn on the light, check on it. And so sometimes by the time you know what was stolen, it's months because the owner who is overseas don't come home. May come home 3 months after the offense has taken place. And that is when you will get a general idea as to what was stolen. Because the caretaker don't know what is in the house. They might see a big item. If a big item is missing, they would know that, like a television or something.
Yeah.
Or a bed?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if anybody gonna steal a whole bed, but
Well, you never know.
but I mean something that's very obvious. I have seen from time to time a call from the Royal St. Vincent and the Grenadines Police Force to be guided with what you purchase like on the street. Is that an issue, like stolen goods being sold in that division?
Well, in this division, since I've been working here in this division since around 2019 thereabout, like these household items, I won't say that in the division is something that is extremely prevalent. I mean, it happens. You would find it with produce livestocks, which we would mention a bit,
Right.
right? But we do not really have an alarming number of cases like that where we have a lot of household items being stolen and sold over in the division itself.
Okay. Okay.
You might find it being done externally.
Okay. Which would make the work even harder,
Right.
trying to track and what's not.
Right.
Okay. So some other challenges. You mentioned livestock. I know pretty larceny holistically has been an issue here in the country. So let's zone in on the theft of livestock and food. Well, produce.
Yeah, this year we have had a reduction in it. Last year up to this point, we had about 20 animals, 20 reports of animals being stolen. This year we only have about 4. So there's a serious reduction in it. It is very challenging for farmers really and for the police, because most of the times we've intercepted vehicles with bags and rope and these things, and they would give you an explanation that they're going to for something, but we know, especially the time of night, that is some kind of animals or something that they were going to steal. And one of the problems we have, really, I think it's nationwide, is that once the skin of an animal comes off, it is difficult, except you find the skin, to identify it. And even with the skin on it, most of the animals, most farmers do not mark the animals. So the animals are not marked. They might only say they know it by its color, or when I call it a name, it will respond to that name. But line up 3 of the same animals, same color together, then that might be the challenge. So the advice for animals is to find some ingenious way of marking your animals. That's an advice to farmers. Find some way to mark your animals, so just in case they are found, you could identify them easier and make the job of the police easier. And even when you go to court, because of the markings, it can be identified, and the perpetrator will not get away with it that easy.
Okay, good. Somebody says questions to the police. Do you operate a local intelligence information gathering? I was told by a policeman that if a robbery took place in his location, he already has 10 suspects based on that information.
Well, every policeman and woman are intelligence officer. You're trained. When you're trained, you're trained how to gather information. And when an offense takes place, you have to go there, speak to the people, interact with people, and then you from the information you get, you will decipher what is what, and then you can move forward from there.
Okay. Are people within the various communities in this division very cooperative with the police in terms of giving up information? The boy sees a shaking head there.
No, well, that is a major challenge. No, in terms of people divulging information to the police for whatever reason. It used to be at a good level once, but now you go to people and you seek information and they will tell you, even though they see. Some of them, they would give you information, but they don't want to get involved.
Right.
So they won't give you a statement. They may tell you what happened, but they don't give a statement. And that in itself doesn't do good for the police, for the matter that they're investigating, for the victim, right? Because telling me you saw what happened and telling me what happened and refusing to give a statement and to even turn up in court to give evidence, it doesn't help us, right? So I deal with a lot of that, and a lot of times I say to these people, we have to always consider that the shoe could be on the other side of the foot, and we never know when we would find ourselves in a situation and we would like someone to come and represent us so that we too can get our justice. And
let me just add, sometimes out of fear, persons don't want to give information. Some people tell you plainly they don't trust a particular officer, or they don't trust the police. And sometimes when you get into it, it comes down to something they may have experienced before. And one of the reasons sometimes people don't want to come forward is they figure most times you leave the job to go to court to give evidence. Nobody pay you. You wait whole day. Then the matter is adjourned and adjourned and adjourned.
Right, it's tedious.
So people don't want to get involved because of these things. But they will tell you, a lot of people will tell you what happened. But as the corporate said, to provide a statement, they won't.
even sometimes some of the victims, they would come to the station and they prefer ask the police to warn this person because they don't want to go through the court processes. They can't deal with the adjournments and so on and so on. So it is a challenge to obtain information from the public now. I mean, there are those Notwithstanding, there are those who would cooperate and assist the police, yes, but still it is a challenge.
What are some of the other challenges? I know that there are some other crimes like homicide and assault, sexual offenses. Some of the other challenges that you face in the division.
Right, so we dealt with what we really dealt with theft, pretty larceny, right?
The next one is a tricky one, boy. It's like you don't want to touch on that one, eh?
Well, we are conversing and we are here to look at the issues as they are.
All right.
Yes, and we're not gonna shy away from what we have to deal with. You know, the USI, which is the unlawful sexual intercourse, so far for this year, I've seen an increase, right? But at the stations that I have been, I've seen an increase. Like in 2022, we would have had one, and so far in 2023, I've seen 6, right? So that is an increase, and it is alarming as much as the figure is so small, because we're talking about not just, okay, you stole something for me, but where our young girls are concerned, there are so many issues that derive from these situations. The trauma that they have to deal with after, not just then and there, but years to come. And so it is alarming when things like these happen, and people experience these things. So it is something that we, as officers in the Southwestern Division, we are dealing with, we have to deal with, and we encourage parents to really pay close attention to their children, look over them well, police them. I don't think parents these days police the children enough as before. I mean, the sergeant and I and our officer, we were having a discussion yesterday, and one of the things that the sergeant was saying is that now it is the devices that rear the children now, because the parents just give them a tablet or a phone and they do whatever they want, and the parents are otherwise engaged, and they don't really pay much attention to what these children are doing. And it is a fact. Our children learn maybe 90% of what they know now, and the devices are not necessary from what parents are instilling in them. And when you look at some of the behaviors of the children, it speaks for itself. So parents must police the children. When I was young growing up, my mother used to police me. I didn't have a father around me, but my mother was father and mother. I feel like it was worse than I had a father around me, because it was that stiff.
She kept you straight and narrow.
Yeah, there was no room for slip-ups. And it's much different now. So you find our children are more exposed to these type of crimes being committed against them. Yeah, so there's one area. Something that I also observe, and it could be a nationwide issue. People are no longer tolerant. We no longer appreciate the idea of resolving even minor issues among ourselves.
Right.
In the homes, you would find sometimes a spouse come to the station to ask the police to warn the other spouse, and things that we could handle, we should handle at a home level. I mean, you don't want things to blew out of proportion.
Right.
And so the police would oblige and, do what is requested. But, we as a nation have to come back to the place where we can resolve our issues, even without getting the police involved sometimes. Because most of the times when the police get involved, we break relationships, and you tend to create enmity for a very long time. Because people tend to think once you bring police for me, that's it for me and you. It's a concept that I see right across the board. You bring police for me, that's it.
When the fact that they have to go to the level, something wrong in the relationship, point blank.
Point blank. So that's it for me and you. Yeah. So we have to come back. We have to find back that ground that we could resolve our issues, resolve our differences, And again, in our homes, parents have to be parents. I often say that there is no space in the adult world for children. It doesn't matter how old children get, they will always be our children, right? And so we as parents, we have to be that. We have to police them from young, instill certain disciplines and principles from young, and not just leave them. Don't just leave them for the tablet and the phone to bring them up. It's good that we could provide certain amenities to them, but we have a huge role to play in their upbringing.
Okay. I know from time to time, not from time to time, but the police, the Royal St. Vincent and the Grenadines Police Force have in place police youth clubs. Are there any within that division? And if so, how many?
There's one in Layu, one in Barley. I know they were trying to start up one in Vermont, but to this date, they hasn't really gotten off the ground as yet.
I think I remember going to a launch some years ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago in Vermont.
But I have had communication with the director of the youth club, Sergeant Billy, and Constable Coombs, who was supposed to be the person who was supposed to manage the club in Vermont. So we're looking at it still, and hopefully we could have it relaunched, and get it going forward.
Okay.
Because as the corporate rightly said, I said sometimes 8, 9, 10 persons are living in a house, but it is not a home. In that everybody is to their own wits. Even the little child, he comes home, he makes a morning, good evening, and he gone into his room on his tablet. He probably comes out to get something to eat, and then back in. And the parents, well, they're busy working, trying to make ends meet, in these challenging economic times. But still, you have to take time out for the children, because the device would raise them. And when the devices raise them, you don't get the kind of children that could fit into the society.
Are there any more? We have not touched on like drug-related issues. We have not touched on homicides. Are there any other challenges within the district? And we have just about 20 minutes left. Before we get to your successes, of course, you're not going to leave that out.
Well, drug-related issues continues. I mean, it's something that has been there from time immemorial. But I like to use my experiences from my youth growing up to draw comparisons, right? And sometimes I have some friends, they will say to me, like, you are experiencing everything. But I've seen as a young child where, say for example, smoking marijuana. It was just adults you would see smoke marijuana, when I was a child growing up. I dread the idea of taking a marijuana spliff and smoke it because, as I said, I feared my mother. Right? So the thought never crossed my head. But compared to present time, I am a day officer, certified day officer, and I've taught the program for roughly 4 years just before the COVID um, interrupted the program and so on. And I've gone throughout the entire island teaching this program. And it's amazing that at 8, 9, you have children smoking marijuana, drinking alcohol. That was something that I didn't see while I was at that age. That was reserved for adults. And even if the adults then they use the drugs, they would ensure, they make sure tell you that is not for you. No, it appears that we have adults who encourage the idea of having young boys, even young girls around them, indulging in the activity. So there's an increase in the use and the abuse of drugs, not just marijuana, but other substances also. Yeah.
I have not done any research, but most of the songs these days that the artist, right? The artist sings about rum, alcohol in general, and they glorify the use of drugs, and some even go as far as him glorifying violence.
Oh yeah.
Right. As I said, I have not done any research, but I believe, from a layman perspective, I believe this has a lot to do with what the youth react these days. Because first time, as the corporal alluded to earlier, two men have a little issue. The community would go in and part them, separate them. No, a man would tell you, boy, I'm coming back, and what I'm going to do, I'm going for my gun, I'm going for this, I'm going for that. And there's no stopping when there's a situation now. There's no end to it. Somebody wants to see somebody be placed under the ground. And I don't really know yet, because I said I've not done any research in it. But the music, the violent music that is being played, and it glorify violence, it glorify the use of alcohol, and it glorify the use of marijuana, especially. I think that has a lot to do with the way society is going to do.
The influence. All right. Let's speak to your successes right now. What have you been successful in, or some successful ventures?
Right. So you made mention of youth clubs a bit earlier, and to me, that is one of the successes that we have in the division. Even though you heard the sergeant mention that we do not have currently a youth club in Vermont, but in at the other two stations, we have youth clubs. And for me, any program that seeks to guide the mind and the life of children is a success. Yeah. And the youth club is one such program. Currently, we have youth club members in St. Lucia and camp. They're doing regional camps with other youth clubs and so forth. And that is one of the areas that we are working hard on, to have youth clubs in all of the stations, to ensure that our youth have a good foundation on which they can build, and which they can also develop to become better men, better women for the future. So, in my opinion, that is one of our biggest successes within our division. so far.
Okay, I've seen from time to time police officers getting involved with community work and maybe like even as simple as playing basketball with children. Is that something that is done within the division? You can only speak for yourselves, right?
Right.
And people you know. Mhm.
Well, we have not played any sport, but my officers and myself, we are constantly on the road and we speak to people. We try to address everything, no matter how trivial it is. And then we get a good response from the public. The police is doing something, you know, and that is one of the biggest achievements I think for my station this year. We were able to reduce the number of radio larceny and burglaries because of our constant patrols on foot most of the times, which is I believe is more better because you on foot you tend to, even though you cover more area in a vehicle, you tend to interact more with the people when you're on foot. There would be time you need the vehicle to go certain areas also, but we do a lot of work on the foot and communicating with people, addressing the issues, and hence the reduction in crimes.
Yeah, also you have generally within the division, you'll have a slight reduction. I say slight, but any reduction in crime overall is always a plus. So I, in comparison to last year around the same period, there's a reduction in the crime overall.
Okay.
Right? You may have little areas where it may go up, but overall the numbers, they will have dropped, and that is a plus. It says that the police are doing something. We tend to hear a lot of times people say, "Oh, the police just at the station, they're not doing anything." But the numbers show that there are a reduction, and as the sergeant said, just being out with people and befriending the community sometimes help to deter, and a lot of occasions deter people from committing offenses. We also have in King Grove and also in Layu neighborhood watch groups, and these are also really beneficial to the organization. These groups, they would look out, and especially in some of the areas that I mentioned where people target for burglaries, you'd find these people, they pay a lot of attention to these areas to help in the prevention of some of these offenses. So again, we appreciate the effort of the persons in the neighborhood watch groups who go out of their way to help the police in the reduction of crime and the prevention of crimes also.
The neighborhood watch groups are privately run organizations. They're just like people in the community that come together and say, okay, let's do this.
Yes.
Okay. Now, we've got just a few minutes, so we're going to have to wrap things up because I did not take a break that we
Realized
normally
that.
do. I just wanted to go straight because we started late. But you're police officers, and I want to know if you are able to comment because somebody is asking a question here. Are you able to comment on what took place last night in Kingstown? No.
No, please.
Okay. The program was pre-planned.
The publication department would put out
Yeah.
a release at some point today, maybe today or sometime.
Okay. I mean, there's been already a release from the Commissioner of Police. That's I read. I guess I'll read it again.
Right.
All right. So hope that answers your question, Mr. Roberts. So let's wrap up. I am seeing a response. There is a youth club in Vermont. That's currently being coordinated by Constable Raquel Coombs, 353. Yeah.
Yes, please.
Okay. All right. So your words of encouragement for people within the district, where you want to see the district in the future and so on. Your final thoughts as we wrap up.
Well, I often say that nobody wants a crime to be committed against them.
Mm.
And if such is committed, people would love to see justice being done. And a lot of times, it takes the community to assist the police because somebody in the community would have seen and heard even before the police. Sometimes when we get to the scene, we meet many persons already on the scene before the police, you know. And my encouragement is that I would love that the police and the community, again, function as one entity to help in the prevention and the reduction of crime in our district. You know, if we could, as best as we could assist, let us assist the police. And most importantly, as best as we could resolve issues as a community, let's take that route so that we prevent, any further acts of violence against each other. Because we're different people, we might have misunderstandings, and that's okay. If we have misunderstandings, it's okay. It's even better when we could work them all together as a community without having to use violence and crime. And sometimes if we do not have to even get the police involved, that's even better that we could operate like that. So let's look out for each other. Let's be each other keeper, each other brother. And let's ensure that we maintain a high level of peace and order in our district.
I would say St. Vincent and the Grenadines belongs to all of us. People are changing. One of the things that cause a lot of problems is people do not respect people. So I'm just urging citizens, respect each other, look out for one another. If you have and you can share, share. Just be respectful, be loving. Teach your children how to love and to respect each other and respect persons. And if we practice these little things, I think St. Vincent could be the land of the blessed again.
All right. Reminds me of a song, Teach the Youth Them How to, how does it go? Teach youth them how to live, teach youth them how to survive.
That's it.
It sounds like a Barrington Levy-ish
Yeah.
kind of song. I'm gonna look for it. Officers, thank you so much for joining us this morning. It's always a pleasure. I want to wish you all the best in your future endeavors. I didn't even ask you guys how long were you in the force?
I've been on the force now for 24 years.
24 years.
This is my 12th year.
12 years. So you're twice as much as him.
Yes.
Right. So if you do anything, you'll get into trouble with him. Right.
We're each other's keeper.
All right. All right. You spoke about parenting earlier. Are you a parent?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Yes,
Spoke like a parent. Yes. All right. Awesome. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Have a wonderful day.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
All right. Thank you. Same to you. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Cop chat for today. I don't know what this pop-up thing here is, but you gotta go. All right. Thank you so much for joining us on the live as well. Let me see. Let me see. What did I do? Messing up myself here. All right. So I'm gonna come right back and play some ads. All right.
St. Vincent and the Grenadines. It's a whole new world out there. Reaching new customers and getting products faster. That's what it's all about. Ocean freight rates are skyrocketing, so don't pay more for slower service. It's time to switch to faster, more reliable air cargo service with SkyMax Cargo. Up to 3 flights weekly to and from the USA, Puerto Rico, and the Caribbean islands, providing excellent import, export, and e-commerce solutions to put you ahead of the competition. For special low rates on small packages and air cargo, contact SkyMax today. 784-456-5400. Local agents SwiftPack Interbrand Cargo. Call 784-456-5400 to book your shipments today.
Vinlac customers are reminded to pay in full the total amount due on their bills, which have a due date of July 2023, to avoid disconnection of supply. Customers in St. Vincent who have been disconnected must visit the inquiries section at Vinlac's corporate headquarters in Paws Avenue to process service reconnection and payments. Customers in the Grenadines may visit offices at the respective Vinlac power stations to process their payments and service reconnection. Failure to do so will result in delayed reconnection of supply.
You hear what they say? Go pay a bill or they'll disconnect you. Now, I want to say thank you for joining us for today's edition of Cop Chat. All right. And thank you to the officers who joined us as well from the South Division. I know you were looking for information concerning last night's mass shooting that took the lives of 5 Vincentians. However, Cop Chat program is pre-planned. All right. It's something that's organized days in advance. So it is difficult to make certain changes at last minute. All right. Thank you so much again. And I'm gonna, oh, Lord Jesus, this is ridiculous. Nice. I love the discussion with these intelligent police officers and teach the youths right. No more cursing, no more fight. But, you know, some of the things that they touched on were quite quite relevant to any other situation or circumstance that happens. The level of intolerance that we have is, you know what it leads to at times. A little disagreement and somebody wants to pull a weapon or somebody's making a threat, and a threat that you cannot take lightly. If somebody hits you, you have to tell them sorry these days. And I don't know what has gone to the point of this high level of intolerance among people. And maybe we have to get to a point where we have to really seriously sit down and come up with solutions and actually work on them, and not just talk, but actually work on them and implement certain things. Yesterday I said, what did I say yesterday? If you look at the rate, the homicide rate, we will clock 55 by the end of the year if we continue at this rate. Now I had to revise the rate. And if we continue like this, and I said, it can go up if we have more. And so happened. In 48 hours, 7. The thing that I think we need to realize, and we also need to accept, is that there is a possibility that it's going to get worse before it gets better. And that to bring about some sort of positive change, to quote unquote go back to where things were, where the number of homicides were not that alarming. And one of the scary things is that it is going to get to a point where people don't even pay attention to the number of homicides. We don't turn an eye, and we're not alarmed by the nature and number of homicides in this country. It's going to take some time, and you're going to have some patience, and it's going to take consistent work and resources to deal with these issues. They mentioned the music. and the outside influences that we can't seem to get a hold of in terms of controlling what our young people listen to as well. But something had to do. Something has to happen. I hope within the list of solutions, we really look at a broadcasting commission in this place. For more than one reason, but this is one. I think it's time enough there be some regulation as to what can be played and what can be said on national radio across the board. Anyways, it's now time for the ECCB bank rates. As brought to you compliments the Bank of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Gonna end the live right now because, yeah, gotta go. Tata.